Hello everybody, I'm going to start this video with just a quick intro. How are you? My name is Michael. I'm going to be offering a few Arabic learning videos, and the videos will be titled similar to what the actual content of the video contains, and then there'll be a number. So if you watch these videos in order, like this will be video number 1, if you watch them in order, you should get a good grasp of beginners and intermediate Arabic. Of course, here I'm going to be starting with the writing, the alphabet, Al-Abjadiyya Al-Arabiyya, which is the Arabic alphabet. I'm going to be discussing the separate letters, the 28 different letters. Basically, I realize there are already a lot of Arabic learning videos here on YouTube, but most of those videos are made by native Arabic speakers. And I know there's much value to be had from watching videos from Arabic native speakers. However, I want to give you an entirely fresh and new perspective from someone who is an English native speaker who then transitioned into Arabic. Of course, transitioning from English into Arabic is possibly one of the hardest things you can do in terms of learning a new language, or in terms of any academic pursuit that you'll undertake. I believe Arabic is actually considered by the U.S. State Department as being one of the most difficult languages to transition into. But I'm going to try to make it a little bit easier for you by offering you all the tips that I can offer from a person who is a native English speaker who then formally transitioned into Arabic. I have been formally trained in both Modern Standard Arabic and a few of the different dialects. I had instruction in Egyptian, in the Gulf region, and the Levantine region, and it really does vary from place to place. Of course, there's the Egyptian Arabic. Sometimes it's lumped into just Egyptian colloquial, and this is not necessarily accurate in that there are many, but there's some basic phrases and some basic understandings. For instance, how a certain letter is pronounced. And I'll give you a few examples when we're going through the actual letters. But the letter Jim is a good example. It would be pronounced with like a J sound in the Levantine area, like Lebanon, Palestine, Syria, these places. And then it would be like a G sound in Egypt. A little bit of Jordan, other areas, of course. It doesn't really necessarily doesn't matter where it is. It just matters on the specific speaker. So really you could come across any of these dialects while traveling throughout the region. And then also the Jim would be pronounced more of like a J sound in the Gulf region, like Saudi Arabia, and different countries in that area. So I want to be able to offer you some helpful tips from my perspective in learning the language. And I think it's almost necessary, given how difficult the language is to acquire, to get some perspective from someone who actually just transitioned into the language. So I'll have a lot of really helpful tips, so I urge you to subscribe to my videos so you can keep up with them. And I realize there are not a lot of Arabic learning sources, and it's hard to find good quality information, but I'm going to try to deliver information as accurate as I possibly can, and I'm going to try to be as thorough as possible. So make sure that you have a pad of paper out, you're ready to take some notes. I urge you to go ahead and follow along with me and just practice, have fun. You're not going to get it the first time, so do whatever you'd like. Save this video, watch it over and over. Remember, never ever just listen to one person, because it does really vary. Arabic is a very, very multi-dimensional language with thousands and thousands of different dialects. But we're going to be focusing on Modern Standard Arabic, which would be like the Arabic you would read on a newspaper, or you would hear on a news station like Al Jazeera. The Modern Standard. So basically any Arab speaker would be able to understand this type of Arabic, although it's not really an Arabic that would be spoken in daily language. But it's good for someone who's learning Arabic to learn this type of Arabic so that they can communicate with others. Okay, I'm first going to start off with some basic notes about Arabic before getting into the actual alphabet. The Arabic language is written from right to left in cursive style, meaning that the letters are connected, although there are some letters that do not connect, which I will discuss in a moment. There are 28 letters, and each of these letters assume a variety of forms depending on where they're placed within a word or where they're placed within a sentence. Arabic has been around since about 400 CE, and it was originally brought about in order to write texts in Arabic. For instance, the Quran is a good example, the Quran being the holy book of Islam. It is important to remember when beginning Arabic that there are no distinct uppercase or lowercase letters. Because in Arabic some of the vowels have to be indicated with different notations or different symbols, it's considered an abjad language. An abjad is a type of writing system in which each symbol sometimes or always represents a consonant, in which case a reader must then supply the appropriate vowel, which I will also discuss. And the vowels often come in terms of like an external set of characters that you then apply to the words, which complicating the situation is that these characters are sometimes omitted from the text entirely. But if you're reading something like a children's type literature or you're reading the Quran, these are all included. So that's why I think it's always good to read through children's literature until you really have a grasp of the Arabic vocabulary, because until you have a grasp of the vocabulary, you can't really pick up, for instance, a newspaper and recognize what certain words are. Of course, you could know the basics like huwa, hiya, like he or she, or anna, like I. Just the basics, the transition words, the prepositions. You'll know those, but you won't know the specific words until you know what the word appears like, understanding it in context, and then understanding it in terms of like the different grammatical variations, which I will also discuss in later videos. In Arabic, many of the letters look very similar, but they are often distinguished by dots, dots being placed in different areas. And these dots are placed in the center of a symbol, which would be referred to as the rasim. For instance, the letter ba, which is the second letter I'll be discussing, makes sort of like a B sound, a transliterated B sound that you would understand in English. And what this is it looks very similar to the ta in Arabic, which is like a ta, a non-emphatic ta. And the difference is the ba has one dot underneath, whereas the ta has two dots above, but the general starting symbol is essentially the same. This fact, I think, makes it a little bit easier to learn Arabic, because, for instance, of the first four letters, there are three that are extremely similar, and the only differences that you find in them is where the dots are located. And these are, of course, the letters ta, tha, and ba. As you will soon notice, some of the Arabic letters look almost identical in all different forms, whereas there are some letters that look completely different in all the forms, which actually is one of the more difficult things about learning Arabic, is that instead of actually learning 28 characters, you could be learning up to 4 new characters per each letter. But once you have it down, it is very easy to remember, and it comes very naturally and very quickly. So what I'm going to do as we move on to the alphabet is I'm going to show you the letters as they are in their isolated phase, meaning the letter by itself. So when you're taking notes, include this first, because this is what the letter looks like completely on its own. And then I'm going to show you what it looks like it's in its initial phase, meaning that it's written first. Maybe it's like the first letter in the word, for instance. Then I'm going to show you what it looks like in its medial phase, if it falls in the center of a word, which not all of them do, but most of them do. So I'll show you the medial phase, and then finally I will show you the final phase. And the final is basically what the word final means. It's how the letter appears when it's written at the end of a word. Not all the letters are going to assume all 4 forms, but the majority of them are. And the ones that would assume all 4 forms are going to be known as connectors, and the ones that don't assume all 4 forms and usually only assume 2 of the forms, which would be the isolated and final form, are going to be known as the non-connectors. And these will become very obvious as I move on and actually begin the alphabet. The first letter I will be discussing is the letter Aleph. The letter Aleph originated in the Phoenician alphabet as a consonant sign indicating the glottal stop. Today it has lost its function as a consonant, and together with ya and waw, it is a consonant sign standing in for a long vowel, or as a support for certain diacritics, for instance madda and hamza, which I will be discussing later. Let's now begin learning the alphabet letter by letter. I'm going to start with the letter Aleph, and we're going to discuss in the isolated, initial, medial, and then final phases. Beginning with the letter Aleph. The letter Aleph is written as a single stroke drawn from top to bottom in its isolated form. As you will notice, Aleph is not given an initial or medial form. This is because Aleph is our first non-connector. In the final form, when Aleph follows a letter, it is written from the bottom to the top. Essentially, the previous letter will end in a connecting segment drawn on a line. Next, we move to the letter Ba. Unlike Aleph, Ba is a connecting letter, which means that it connects to any letter following it in the same word. As you will see, the main portions of the letter, which is the tooth and the dot beneath the body, remain consonant in all 4 shapes. As we move to the Ta, you will notice that the next 2 letters are written similar to the Ba. The principal difference being the placement of the dots. When speaking the letter Ta, keep in mind the frontal quality of the letter. This is important to keep in mind because there is an emphatic version of the Ta later on that is pronounced Ta. The 4th letter is the Tha. Learn to associate this letter with the TH sound, as in the word 3. Do not associate Tha with the English letters TH, because there are too many variations in English. For example, say the words three and the word there. In these two words, the letters T and H function much differently. It is important to remember while reading Arabic that many people, depending on their own handwriting style, will write words much differently. This is still fairly formal what I have been teaching. However, you may notice ta appears this way, in which the two dots are just connected as one short line. The same proves true for the letter tha. Here, the three dots can be shortened into a simple caret shape, a triangle shape. And this, of course, repeats for all the different forms of tha, as well as ta.